This cheesecake is absolutely divine. It's made with real pumpkin puree and warm pumpkin pie spice, but it doesn't have any dairy, eggs, or even store-bought vegan cream cheese. Hey, welcome back. Today I am sharing one of my favorite fall recipes, which is my vegan pumpkin cheesecake. I actually made this recipe because so many vegan cheesecake recipes use store-bought vegan cream cheese, and there are two problems with that. For one, the flavor and texture of vegan cream cheese really varies depending on which brand you buy, so your results might vary. And two, I don't live in the US anymore. I live in Taiwan and I hardly even see regular cream cheese, let alone vegan cream cheese here. So we are doing something a little bit different, but don't worry because it is super easy. So to start, we're just gonna preheat our oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are also going to grease a 9-inch springform pan with this recipe. I'm using vegan butter, but you could also use a little bit of oil. All right, so next we're just gonna take 1 1/4 cups of cashews and soak them in hot water for 10 minutes. I haven't found any pre-made vegan graham cracker crumbs, so I am just gonna take my homemade vegan graham crackers and I'm just gonna pulse the blender until I have 1 3/4 cups of crumbs. If you want the recipe for the graham crackers, I will also link that in the description below. All right, so we are going to make this graham cracker crust by mixing up the crumbs with 2 tablespoons of vegan brown sugar and a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. Then I'm just gonna add 6 tablespoons of melted vegan butter. If your 6 tablespoons isn't enough to bring it all together, you can add a little bit of water if needed, but this should be a good amount. All right, so now we're just gonna press that into the pan. I'm smoothing out the bottom with a glass, and then I'm gonna press it about halfway up the sides. I wanna try to keep it as even as possible on the sides and not too far up the pan because I don't want the crust to be higher than the actual cheesecake. And we're just gonna pop that in the oven for 10 minutes and then set it on a wire rack to cool. After you take it out of the oven, you're also gonna wanna reduce your heat to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so next we're gonna make the filling. I'm gonna warn you, depending on the size of your blender, this filling might be too much to do in one batch. So you might need to blend up parts of it at a time and then kind of mix it all together. My blender jar is just big enough to hold all this. So if you have something that's like 6-7 cups or larger, you should be okay. So we're gonna get the blender jar and just add 12 ounces of silken tofu, your soaked and drained cashews, 1 1/3 cups of pumpkin puree, which is not the same as pumpkin pie filling, 1 cup of full-fat canned coconut milk, 1/2 cup each of vegan white sugar and brown sugar, 1/4 cup each of cornstarch and lemon juice, 1 1/2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1/2 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So we're gonna start off the blender on a low speed and then just gradually increase the speed, and then you're gonna let it blend for a few minutes until everything is totally smooth. Now I'm gonna put my cooled springform pan and the pie crust into a 10-inch silicone cake pan, which I think is the best way to protect the cake from leaks in your water bath. You could also wrap it in a few layers of heavy-duty aluminum foil and then use like a roasting bag or something on the outside of it, but I just find this silicone cake pan easy, it's reusable, and I prefer it. So if you can find one of those, definitely grab one. And then we can just pour our filling right into the pan. For your water bath, ideally you want to use a large roasting pan, but I actually couldn't find one locally because not many people have ovens and the ovens here are quite small, so I am just using this 12-inch cake pan that I found instead. Before you put your cheesecake in the oven, you want to just boil just enough water to fill your pan with the cheesecake in it. You don't really need to bring it to a full boil. If it just starts to bubble just a little bit, that's fine. And you're gonna put your cheesecake at the center of your roasting pan and then put that whole thing in the oven on middle rack. And I like to use a large mixing cup for this because it's somewhat small and easy to pour. And just pour that into the roasting pan. Just be careful not to splash any water inside the cheesecake or the silicone mold. And you also don't want to fill the water all the way up to the top of the silicone mold. Maybe just fill it up 2/3 of the way to the top of the silicone mold. All right, and we are just going to bake this for 55 minutes. If you are not using a water bath, you can bake it for 45 minutes instead. What you're looking for is the cake to be firm around the edges. When you move it a little bit, the center will jiggle a little. Definitely don't over bake it because you'll end up with cracks on the top, and we don't want that. Once it's done, we're just going to crack the oven door just a little bit and leave it cool down inside the oven for 1 hour. Then you can put it in the fridge to chill for either 4 hours or overnight. All right, the cheesecake is almost ready. I'm just gonna make some caramel sauce to drizzle over top. So basically I'm just taking 1/2 cup of sugar and I'm gonna melt that down on the stove until it turns nice and golden. And then you wanna be careful here because it'll splash out, but you're gonna add 1/2 cup of canned coconut milk, mix that in, and also add about 1/8 teaspoon of salt. The cheesecake is ready. I've put some coconut whipped cream and cinnamon around the edges, and then once it's sliced, then I'm just gonna drizzle some caramel on top. And that's it. So I am not always the biggest fan of all the pumpkin spice everything that comes in the fall. But this pumpkin and these warm spices just pair so perfectly with the cool and creamy cheesecake. It is just so delicious. Well, that is it for this recipe. If you do try it, please let me know what you think. Leave me a comment here or on my website. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.